just want to see here. So, today I'm going to the Women's March. Or, sorry, not the Women's March, that was a different thing. I'm going to the, march to protest gun laws, like we need stricter gun laws and stuff like that. Because we do. I know it's a bit of a serious issue for a YouTuber like me to be covering, but, you know, sometimes. So either way, I thought it'd be a very interesting thing to vlog, so, I guess I'll see you once we're in the car. Alright, so we just got out of the car, and we're gonna go start... Yeah. And so we're gonna go start walking over to the place, and yeah, so what we're doing right now is we're walking into a church where, a bunch of people are gonna give speeches, just regarding all the stuff that's happened recently, so, yeah.
Part of the speech that one of the Stoneman Douglas survivors, 18-year-old Emma Gonzalez, gave just days after the shooting that took the lives of 17 of her peers and teachers at her school. Every single person up here today, all these people, should be at home grieving. But instead, we are up here standing together because if all our government and president can do is send thoughts and prayers, then it's time for victims to be the change that we need to see. Since the time of our founding fathers, and since they added the Second Amendment to the Constitution, our guns have changed at a rate that leaves me dizzy. The guns have changed, but our laws have not. We certainly do not understand why it should be harder to make plans with friends on weekends than to buy an automatic or semi-automatic weapon. In Florida, to buy a gun, you do not need a permit, you do not need a gun license, and once you buy it, you do not need to register it. You do not need a permit to carry a concealed rifle or shotgun. You can buy as many guns as you want at one time. I read something very powerful today. It was from the point of view of a teacher, and I quote, "When adults tell me I have the right to own a gun, all I can hear is my right to own a gun outweighs your student's right to live. All I hear is mine, 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 mine." Australia had one mass shooting in 1999, and after the massacre, they introduced gun safety, and they haven't had one mass shooting since. Japan has never had a mass shooting. Canada has had 3, and the UK has had 1, and both introduced gun control, and yet here we are. If you actively do nothing, people continually end up dead. So it's time to start doing something. To the politicians who sit in their gilded house and Senate seats funded by the NRA, telling us nothing could have been done to prevent this, we call BS. They say tougher gun laws do not decrease gun violence. We call BS. They say a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun. We call BS. They say guns are just tools like knives and are as dangerous as cars. We call BS. They say no laws could have prevented the hundreds of senseless tragedies that have occurred. We call BS.
Yes.
They say that we students don't know what we're talking about, that we're too young to understand how the government works. We call BS. We are going to be the kids that you read about in textbooks, not because we're going to be another statistic about mass shooting in America, but because we are going to be the last mass shooting. We are going to change the law. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
I'm come up here today and speak about gun violence. And I'm really grateful you gave me the opportunity, and I'm really excited to share what I have to say with all of you. The issue of gun violence is a national, hugely problematic issue that we need to solve. That's the most important point I want to communicate, and it's why we're all here, because we know that. When I heard about the school shooting in Florida, it didn't honestly seem real to me. 17 kids gunned down in the school? No way, I thought. Once I fully processed it, I was completely shocked. I was shocked because it seemed insane to me that 17 people's lives could be ended by a gun, and I was shocked because it was 17 kids, like me, who were killed. This worldwide movement to end gun violence is about that. I've also come to realize, though, that it's about more than just that. Those kids were just like me, and that were kids. Most importantly, their lives mattered. My initial reason for wanting to march and wanting to speak about this was because of that. Because one day there were 17 kids who went to school and didn't come home. Because one day they were gone, before they got to live their lives, before they got to go home that day, and before they got to say goodbye. Gone because of an act of gun violence performed by someone with a gun, a destructive and dangerous weapon that person should not have used, let alone even owned. Heck, we've got elected officials running this country who have done nothing about that fact. The person should not have owned a gun. And being the legislators, they're supposed to make changes and laws to make sure that people who aren't supposed to have guns don't have them. And they are supposed to make sure that any person who legally owns a gun won't and can't use it to destroy lives. Additionally, they need to create laws that keep us safe and regulate the use, sale, and purchase of guns. But what do? They, specifically speaking President Trump, say that they sympathize with the families of those 17 kids. And yet all they are willing to acknowledge is that the event itself happened. All they acknowledge is that these 17 kids died. They won't acknowledge that things need to change. They won't acknowledge that they are, in several ways, at fault. Many of these officials are still accepting money from the NRA. What I'm saying is they won't accept their part of the blame, they won't accept the need for change, they won't accept any of that. But the saddest thing is they can't even accept the one truth that matters so much to me. Not that the 17 kids died, it is that they live. They live. It is not about them dying, it is about them living. Their lives really mattered, and I believe they still matter. I know for sure, for me, I want to feel safe at school. I don't want to worry about what might happen because of what actually has happened. More so, we all want our elected officials to realize that enough is enough. It's time to end this. When I was writing, I came up with a sort of letter I would give to them, our elected officials, if I could. And it led me to think about the U.S. as a community, because in a community, you're a whole, and when one of you is suffering, everyone is. Thinking about our country that way makes things so much more personal. After this, I began to think about the people who I knew would be coming here today, who want to march and write letters to the president and change things. I wonder a lot in my daily life these days if I value life enough. Life is a glorious gift that everyone here has today, and all our lives matter so much. But there are people out there who have guns, and they deny this. They could have a gun illegally, or were able to purchase one legally, even though they really should not have been allowed to. That is another one of my reasons for wanting to march, because I believe so strongly in the value of life. When it comes to living life, it's not about a me or a them, and it is, although it's not just about the kids who died. It's about a larger us and an our, us here today, and the fact that our lives matter. All our lives matter, and you can't ignore or deny the fact that in a privileged country like our own, life is threatened and taken because we don't have proper gun legislation. Again and again, I'm going to shout that that needs to change today. I have a favorite lyric from my favorite Broadway show, Hamilton, and when I listened to the soundtrack, I could not believe how relevant it was. It is, death doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and it takes, but we keep living anyway. We rise and we fall and we break and we make our mistakes. And if there's a reason I'm still alive when so many have died, I'm willing to fight for it. Yeah, I'm willing to fight for it. And I am willing to fight for it. And I know you guys are too. I can think of nothing better than being able to march with everyone here today, demanding that it acknowledge that our lives matter and so we need change. The 17 kids, everyone who has died because of acts of gun violence, their lives matter and our lives matter. This is, in the end, the truth of why we need proper gun legislation. So today, believing and marching and advocating for change, I want us to value life, to know that the lives of the kids who died still matter, and our lives matter. I want us to know that in marching, we're becoming the change we want to see in the world. So let's do this.
Hi, we're students from Saugatuck High School. This story is part of the speech that a senior named Caitlin Demarest gave at our school's walkout, and us students thought it was extremely powerful. My name is Samuel Granillo. I am a 17-year-old junior at Columbine High School. On April 20, 1999, I barricaded myself in an office near the school's cafeteria.
Gunfire and the sounds of bombing were everywhere. The eerie silence that followed. I noticed that there was no lock on the office door, so I shoved my toes in the bottom of the door. I laid on the ground and used my body weight to wedge it shut. 17 other people were in that room with me, not knowing what would happen next. A couple minutes later, the doorknob turns. It's just like in a horror movie almost, when you're trying to be quiet and the doorknob starts to turn and you know what's on the other side.
Everyone in my room, which was a tiny office, started pushing on my knees and shoulders trying to brace me. We were fighting the door shut against the shooter. It wasn't someone who needed to hide. It was them, the killers. They managed to push the door open a couple of inches. We didn't know what would happen to us, but after several minutes, they sort of gave up on my room.
The sounds of gunfire and explosions started up again, but this time it was getting farther away from me. When the SWAT team finally got us out of that office, I looked up into the cafeteria and see it just destroyed. Tables are turned upside down, smoke everywhere, broken glass, flipped up chairs, and puddles of water.
This is why we're marching today, so no student ever has to experience something like this ever again. Thank you.